Hi everyone, welcome to this video. We will be talking about operators and expressions. So these are concepts that will help us write concise code and also have an understanding of what we are writing. You see, a lot of things in computer science heavily depends on mathematics. And in computer science also, especially computer programming, we do so many things that relate to the things within mathematics, things like addition, subtraction, multiplications, and other things like that. Although in programming, those things might be different, a little bit different from how it is done in maths. So today we are going to be talking about operators, and there are different types of operators that we have in programming, especially in JavaScript. The very first one we are going to be talking about in this video is assignment operators. So let's create a comment as a header and we do assignment operators. So now, what are assignment operators? Let's first do an example. And the first one we'll be talking about is the equal sign assignment operator. So let's say we create a variable, let age equals 24, right? So this is a JavaScript expression where we use the equal sign as an assignment operator. So what this means is that we are not saying the value of age. We are not saying age is equal to the value 24. No, although it is correct technically, but what we really mean is, in this case, what we are saying is that the variable name age now holds the value of 24. So in this case, we could say the age variable is an operand. The equal sign in the middle is the operator. And the value of 24 on the right side is also the second operand. So we use the operator, the equal sign operator, to assign the value on the right side 24 to the variable name age on the left side. So the second operator we are going to be talking about is the addition assignment operator. And this is where we do plus equals, right? So this is called the addition assignment operator. So this operator adds and then assign the operand on the right side of the operator to the value of the operand on the left side of the operator. So what that means is that, let's say we do something like, let my number equals 2. Yeah, let's use 2. I like 2. So let's console.log my number, but we'll do something different. We are going to be using the addition assignment operator here. So what do? We say console.log my number plus equals 3. So what are we going to respect? Just guess. We'll run the code, but try to guess what the output will be. Let's save our code and come down here. This is actually the first time we are running our code today. So let's do node. What's the name of our file? Operator.js. So we'll just write operator, right? Operators. There's S there. So we'll see 5. So what happens now is, we use the plus equals sign which is called the addition assignment operator. We use it to output 5. And now what happens under the hood is that we are saying, let's write a comment here to explain what's going on. So using the plus equals sign, it's like saying my number equals to 2 plus 3. This is exactly what happens behind the scene when we do console.log my number plus equals 3. So that was why we were able to get the output of 5. So in the same way, we can use the subtraction assignment operator, the multiplication assignment operator. Now, let's say we do something like this. Let price equals 14, right? So what happens when we say let price equals 14? Now we do console.log. Oh, sorry, there is no equal sign there. So we do console.log price. So say price minus equals 4, right? So let's save our code. And what do we expect to see? Let's come down here and run it. So we expect to see 10. So what happens, just like the addition, what happens behind the scene is like saying price equals to 14 minus 4. So that was how we were able to get the answer 10. The same goes to for division, assignment operator, and so on. So the next class of operators we are going to be talking about is arithmetic operators. So let's also create another comment for that. Arithmetic operators. So for arithmetic operators are the operators that receive numerical values. You understand? So what happens is they receive numerical values and they return the corresponding results. And that results, what the operation they perform on it can either be addition, subtraction, multiplication, exponentiation, and so on. You understand? So let's do something like this. Let's say let x, and remember, when you begin to build projects, give variables meaningful name. But because we are just trying to mess around here and see some examples of how these things work, that's why I'm using variable names that do not have real meaning, things like x. So let's do let y once again equals 3, right? So what do we do now? We'll say let z equals x plus y, right? So when we run our code, we say console.log z, we will see y. We can perform the same operation with subtraction and the rest. So let's go ahead and say console.log z, right? So what do we expect to see? We'll see 5, right? So what we do is we set a variable to 2 variable x equals 2, y equals 3. Then we say variable z should be equals to the sum of x plus y, and obviously that is the sum of the values they are holding. X holds the value 2 and y holds the value of 3. So the sum of 2 plus 3 is 5, and that's why we see 5. Then in our arithmetic operator, there is this concept of double addition and double subtraction signs. And The double addition sign is known as the increment operator, right? Something like this. So that is the double addition sign, and the double subtraction sign is like this. The addition sign, double addition, is known as the increment operator. The double subtraction sign is known as the decrement operator. So when we use, there are two ways we can use these operators, right? So let's use some of our variables up here. Let me use variable z, for example. So when we use the increment operator before, after the name of the variable, something like this. Let's say console.log z plus plus. What do we expect to see? Let's go down here and run the code. We see 5, right? But now when we come back down here and do console.log z, save, come down here, what do we see? We see 6, right? So what happens here is that when we put the increment operator in front of the variable name, it first returns the original value. And we know the original value of variable z is 5, and that was why we see 5 the first time. But after returning that original value, it then increments it. And that is why when we console.log z for the second time, even without adding the increment operator, we were able to see 6, because first it returns the original value, then increments it after returning the first original value. Then there is the second way we can use it, and that is by putting the increment value before the variable name. Something like this. Let's use variable x for this example. Let's say console.log plus x, right? So what do we expect to see? What do we expect to see? Can you guess now? So putting the increment operator before the variable name, it will add to the variable before returning the value. So when we save now, we know the previous value of x is 2, right? Up here it's 2. Now when we go and run our code, what do we expect to see? We'll see 3. Because putting the increment operator before the variable name increments the value before returning it. Now remember, you need to remember something. The same way we use the addition increment operator here, the same way we'll be able to use the decrement operator, which will be double subtraction signs, right? But when we use double asterisk, which is the symbol we use for multiplication, right? This is it. But in this case, we are going to use 2 of it. So what happens? Double asterisk actually returns the base number to the power. And what do I mean by that? Let's say let m equals 3, right? 3 double asterisk 4. So what do we expect to see? Let's console.log m. Console.log m, and when we run the code, what do we see? We see 81, right? So what happens right now is like saying 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3. That is exactly what happens. So using double asterisk, it actually returns the base number to the power of the number following it. So that's what happens. Now, by the way, I'll really appreciate a sub to the channel. It makes me happy. Thanks so much in advance. And the next operators we are going to talk about are logical operators. So let's create another comment for that. Logical operators, right? So logical operators, these are operators that they are not really used in mathematics. They are kind of limited to computer science, right? So how do they work? There are so many types of logical operators. I think we are going to be talking about three here. And the first one is the logical and right? And it has a symbol. We are going to be using the symbol. So the second one is logical, which one should I use? Okay, or, right? And this is the symbol. So the third one we are going to talk about is logical not. Yeah, let's use not, because we are not going to be talking about everything in this video. Okay, we are just going to talk about things that is going to get you started, get you familiar with what operators are in programming, right? So that's what we'll be working with. So now the first example we are going to do, let's use AND. Now, logical operators are usually used with Boolean values, right? So how they work is the logical AND, this first one right here, it only returns true if both operands it is operating on are true, right? We will see true if both operands are true. Now, logical OR, which is the second one here, it will return true if only one of the operands is true. That is, it will return true if both are true, but in a situation where both operands are not true, it will return true if one of them is true. Now, the not operator, we'll talk about it. Let's see an example first of how AND and OR works. So let's see equals 3, right? And let's D equals 4, right? And remember, in JavaScript, you don't really need to add semicolon at the end of your line, but I'm already used to it in languages like C++, so that's why I always add it whenever I'm writing code in JavaScript. So you can write it without the semicolon, but it's good. It's a good practice if you add it at the end of the line of your code. So let's create, how do we analyze this situation? Let's use an if statement, right? We haven't talked about if statements yet, but we are going to use it anyway. So I'll create another video on conditionals. We'll be talking about if and else statements, switch statements, and stuff like that. So let's say C greater than 2 and D greater than 2, right? So what should happen? Console.log what should I write inside this? Okay, let's say this will work, right? Then we'll come down here and create an else statement. So we'll say else console.log log this will not work. So what are we expecting to see here? Let's run this code, save, come down here. So what happens? It says this will work. And why did this work? We say let C equals 3, let D equals 4. And in our decision statements, we say if C is greater than 2, and look at our AND operator, logical operator here, and D is also greater than 2, it should say this will work. Else, it should say this will not work. That is in situation where either of the variables is not greater than 2. So let's come here and change it. Let's say D greater than 5, right? So let's save it. So for this code to work, for it to say this will work, C must be greater than 2 and D must be greater than 5. Now let's see if it will work. It said this will not work. Why? Because only one of the conditions is true. Only C is greater than 2, but D is not greater than 5. We could also keep it the way it is before and say D greater than 2, but right here we can come and change the 4 and say D equals 1, right? So this will not also work. We'll see this will not work because 1 obviously is not greater than 2, right? So that is what happens. Now, when we change our D back to 4, what happens? We will see this will work, right? This will work. So the same principle, we can also use the same principle to check for OR operator. So now what happens? Let's use the OR operator. Let's save, come down here and run our code. It says this will work because both conditions are true. But what happens when one of the conditions is not true? Let's change D once again to 5. So we'll say if C is greater than 2 or D is greater than 5, console.log this will work. So what are we saying now? We are expecting that one of the conditions must be met. So one of the statements must be true. Either C should be greater than 2 or D should be greater than 5. If one of these is true, our code will work. So let's save it and come down here and run the code. So what do we see? We see this will work. And why is that? Because we have two statements. One of them is true, one of them is not. But for the OR logical operator, we only need one to be true. And which one is true? C is true because C is equals to 3. So 3 is obviously greater than 2. And D is equals to 4, but it is not greater than 5. Since one of the condition is correct, we will definitely say this will work. So if we should come here and say C should be greater than, let's say, 10 or something, Control S. So come down here, run the code. This will not work. Why? Because none of the conditions were met, right? So C is not greater than 10, D is not greater than 5. But once we come back and we change our 10 to 2, so one of the condition is true, we come down here, run the code, we will see this will work, right? So for the logical NOT operator, what example should I give? What example should I give? Okay, let's say something like this. I use a Samsung phone, right? So let's say let has iPhone. Yeah, this is a good example. let has iPhone equals not true. Right? And let has Samsung equals not false. So what happens? Let's console log so console.log has iPhone, console.log has Samsung. Console.log has iPhone, console.log has Samsung. So what are we going to expect now? I don't have an iPhone. So I said let has iPhone not equals true. So what do we expect to see? For console.log has iPhone, we will see false. Now for console.log has Samsung, we will see true, because we say has Samsung not equals false. Let's come down here so that you can understand what I'm talking about. We see for has iPhone false, for has Samsung true, because for the has iPhone I said do I have iPhone not equals true, right? It's just a way to get around saying no. So what is the last thing we should do? Okay, let's do one more thing before we end the video. And this is quite important for you to know. And it is called operator precedence in JavaScript. You understand? Wait, let's comment out the rest of our code and see what we can do. So we'll do Alt, Shift, and A. So this is a multi-line comment. This one is easier to cover multiple lines that when you want to comment multiple lines. So what do? Let's create an example to test operator precedence in JavaScript. Let A equals 2, right? Let B equals 3. Let B equals 3, right? Then let C equals 4. So we're going to create a fourth variable and set that equals D. So we'll say let D equals A plus B multiplied by C, right? So let's go ahead and console.log D. So what do we expect to see here? We say console.log D. Console.log D, right? Let's save our code before I will explain what is going on. And we see 14. 14, right? 14. Why do we see 14? What were you expecting we were going to see? Well, what happens behind the scene is that because of the order of precedence in JavaScript, multiplication comes first before addition, right? So what happens is 3 is multiplied. The value of B, which is 3, gets multiplied by the value of C, which is 4. So 3 multiplied by 4, we get 12, right? 3 multiplied by 4 is 12. Then 2, which is the value of A, gets added to 12. And that's how we ended up with 14 down here. So what happens in a situation where we really want addition to come first before the multiplication. And that is where this operator called grouping operator comes in. So how do we use grouping operator? We do something like this. It's just like the way you use it in mathematics, but in JavaScript it is called grouping operator. So what are we going to expect our output to be? In this case, we are saying the addition should come first. So we will get 2 plus b. That is the sum of the values of a and b, right? That is 2 plus 3. So we get 5. Then 5 multiplied by the value of c, which is 4. 5 multiplied by 4, we'll expect to see 20 this time around. So when we come down here, we've saved our code, run it, we get 20 because the addition gets executed first, it gets performed first, and then we multiply it by the value of c. So that's all for this video. For now, you don't need to really go far beyond this. You're already equipped with the things you need to get going with programming as far as JavaScript is concerned. And don't forget that there are so many resources online where you can learn more about JavaScript, where you can read. Once again, I recommend the JavaScript documentation MDN, right? You can always come back to this file. And remember, like I said, we create separate files for all the concepts we are talking about. At this point, we've talked about data types, variables, and this current video, operators. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And once again, please do like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to turn on your notification button so that every time I upload a new video, because I'll continue to upload videos in this JavaScript series, so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. And that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.